Hey, howdy, hey, you're on with the Juice Man, and this is Boat Game. Now, I've got one of my first games for you here today in the brand new legendary tier Japanese cruiser, the Yoshino. I've got Azure Lane Otago at 16-2 with Beyond Range, Arsonist for the extra fire chance, Punch Through, Fixated, and Refill Station. My inspirations are Norm Scott and Andre Roux. Getting into the build, I'm running Aiming Systems Mod 1. I ended up putting Steering Gears Mod 2 over Propulsion Mod in my second slot because this thing has a very slow rudder. Think Azuma when it comes to this ship. Concealment System Mod 1 so I can disengage easier. Main Battery Mod 3 for some better reload. And I'm running this torpedo module that grants the torpedoes an astonishing 20 kilometers of range. My first game in it, I actually hit one at, I think it was just over 18 kilometers. This thing is pretty nasty with them. And they have really good angles off the front set, not so much the back set. The high explosive, 5763 max damage, but 35% fire chance. Pretty much on par for 310mm guns. 9342 AP alpha, 15.5 second reload on the guns. It comes with sonar and catapult fighters, how I built mine, but you can switch the catapult for a spotter. 3 heals, I'm running my CC camo and the Hayate flag. Got 61,800 hit points, 19% torpedo reduction. Got the 3x3 310s, pretty decent guns. Got a bunch of 100mm secondaries, not too bad. They set fires, 14% chance. Torpedoes, so it's 8 torpedoes per side, dealing a maximum of 20,967 damage, 62 knots. AA suite, because of the dual purpose 100mm guns, which are essentially Akazuki main battery turrets. This thing has incredible AA, and this is base with no AA spec. If I lose Beyond Range and put on no fly zone, I can bump that AA stat to just shy of 100. This AA is very good. Maneuverability, this is where the ship is lacking a little bit. It's got a massive turning circle, but she gets rocking at 34 knots with my rudder module, 11.1 second rudder. 11.2 kilometer concealment, 7.1 from the air. It's actually pretty well concealed for a ship this size. Getting into the armor scheme, we're looking at a 25mm nose, but don't let that be too discouraging. We got 30mm down the sides of the ship in the casemate, a couple little weak spots in the Citadel roof. Losing all of that, we can see it is actually a fairly well protected, very slight turtleback on this Citadel. And the Citadel slopes are 125mm. So as long as your shells are coming in above, because the Citadel does peak above the waterline, those sides are 178mm. So at an angle you can bounce, but I found myself taking a lot of deck Citadels from things like Alaska's when plunging fire is coming in. But for the most part, it is a fairly well protected Citadel if you can get the shells above that 178mm armor onto the slopes. A fast-moving ship armed with 310mm artillery for her main battery, intended to counter enemy heavy cruisers. This version of the design also featured torpedo armament. It is very good torpedo armament. A really good AP pen, really good HE damage, decent fire chance. Overall, a good ship. Let's get straight into the game. We're on Warrior's Path on the Northeast Charlie spawn. We're in a Tier 8 and Legendary game. It's actually a perfectly balanced game for the enemy team. 3 battleships, 3 cruisers, 3 destroyers. Cannot say the same for our team. We're 1 battleship down, but we've got an extra cruiser. Now, my game plan is going to be pretty much charge C, turn around, angle away from C, try to set some stuff on fire, make use of my semi-decent rudder. Maybe get a little bit of damage on the way. But due to the nature of these 20-kilometer torps and how much damage they do, it never hurts to dump them into a channel where ships might be later in the game. By later, I mean within the next minute and a half to 2 minutes. Because you never know what zoning an area can do for you. Sometimes you'll hit something and get some damage. This ship is going to be especially good at zoning areas and denying areas, lest people want to eat a whole bunch of torpedoes. This is another one of those spots that it can't hurt to throw some torpedoes at in the event that somebody comes around the corner. Now what you're seeing here is the bane of my existence for the entirety of this game. The Alaska that manages to, without fail, pretty much deck pen Citadel me with some of his salvos and otherwise chunk me with all of his other ones. I feel like I'm angled enough, but deep down I know I'm not. Alaska's got really good penetration angles, and he's just going to continue to chunk me like that. With a Minotaur coming around the corner, I'm getting my armor piercing loaded. He's looking very free, but unfortunately this is a Minotaur that actually kind of knows how to play the ship open water and is fairly good at maneuvering, as is going to be evident with my next salvos. Right here I assumed he was going to smoke up and slam it in reverse, so I fired the shells a little bit behind him. But I'll admit, skill issue on my part, I got bamboozled. Minotaur hard slammed on the gas, started pulling forward and managed to evade that salvo. Another salvo at the Minotaur, still being mindful of where the Alaska is. And right there is where I take the cheeky Citadel from the Alaska along with a whole bunch of pens. That hurt. Did not feel nice in the slightest. Another pot shot for the Minotaur. Not sure how it's going to go. And I didn't lead him enough. We've got a suspicious smoke screen out to the east there. Likely one of the 3 enemy destroyers inside, but right now that's the least of my worries. This Alaska is going to kill me if I don't do something about him sooner than later. But I want the Minotaur. Really bad. I'm sensing a free dev strike from that Minotaur. I just gotta land the shells. Well, there's part 1. 2 Citadels on the Minotaur. An overpen snuck its way in there because these guns do have fairly decent penetration. High caliber, decent shell velocity. Pretty much a standard fuse. There's another one of those big 10k chunks from the Alaska. I've really got to stop taking those. I've got a pretty good idea what Alaska's reload is, so he's given me plenty of time to turn in and try to get this island between him and I, while I try to turn this fight into a one-on-one with me versus the Minotaur. Which, due to the fact that I actually have some armor, I can tank a good amount of his incoming fire, but definitely not all of it. Now right here, this is one of those times where you just wish you were a little bit quicker, you wish you could have predicted a little bit better what was going to happen. I managed to drop spot, get some torps off. Minotaur's showing me the side. The shells are out. Now you can see my shells going towards him. No idea where those Marco Polo shells came from. That totally yoinked my guaranteed dev strike and dev struck the Minotaur, but I can't complain too much. If Minotaur was allowed to make it to that smoke screen, it would have been. Well, never mind, there goes the smoke screen. Okay, I'm mad at the Marco Polo again. Totally just yoinked that. But realistically, I had, what, 3 or 4 different opportunities to dev strike him in the first place. It is what it is. It is what it is. So, Charlie's relatively uncontested. My teammates aren't super interested in pushing into it. I can't imagine what the destroyer behind the rock between B and C is thinking right now, but he seems to be heading towards Bravo. Wait, let the cruiser and the battleship cap, I guess. Oh, that's his call. It's up to him. So, I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to push in, take the cap. Now, since Alaska is pushing towards mid, towards my 2 destroyers, this is where I've got it in my head. If he gets tunnel visioned on the Elbing and the Yugamo, I can take full advantage of his flat broadside while he's pushing across that gap. But we've already established Alaska's got a decent idea of what's going on. Got something between his ears at least. So he's not going to send it right around the corner. Instead, he's actually going to park on that corner as our Yugamo goes down to the daring. Now, Elbing doesn't seem too interested in moving from that position. He might have an idea about doing something to the Alaska, but for the next little while, he's not going to move from that spot. Quick pot shot at the Friedrich de Gross, just in case he wants to give up some damage. And there's the radar from the Alaska. So I'm going to throw some torpedoes in the last known direction of that daring, just in case he elects to back up around that corner, come after the Elbing or one of us. Just another one of those times where zoning torpedoes can be useful. Either you'll deny the enemy from that area, or you'll punish them for pushing into it. Now, I'm kind of parked right now. Alaska's got me on hydro, he knows exactly where I am. So, I'm just going to wait for him. Maybe take some shots at the de Gross. I get my shot off at the de Gross, Alaska decides it's time to push. Now, if I had to guess, I'd assume he thinks he's going to ram the Marco Polo. He is barreling straight towards him, not even paying attention to me. Now, I've got fully packed. I'd say my aim is decent. 12k on the Alaska, no citadels, as one of those zoning torpedoes I fired earlier hits and kills the enemy daring. I wish it were a double strike. I wish I could have citadeled the Alaska. But I think these guns are kind of lacking in penetration a little bit. Like, they're good for punching through armor and getting big chunk damage. It's good AP. It's just not quite enough to reach the Citadel of something like an Alaska. It would have been a absolutely lovely double strike, as another one of the enemy destroyers is torpedoed by our Elbing, who took a page out of my playbook, I guess, fired some zoning torpedoes, got a destroyer for himself. So now it's me, the Marco Polo, and 2 DDs and a BB against 3 battleships on the enemy team. There's our Friedrich de Gross heading directly south right now. There's another battleship behind him, and then there's a battleship pretty much at the back of the map running directly for the white line. So I'm just going to sit here and try to farm this de Gross a bit, get some fires, enjoy the fact that I currently have refill stations, so I've got really good range for shooting at him. There's 1 fire on the de Gross and a damage con, so I'm keen to set another. There's my other fire. So that one's going to burn for a minute because he used his damage con on the first one I set. I'd like another. Like 3 more, if we're being honest, but I'll take what I can get. As my damage is ticking up, there's my second fire. So de Gross is now on a double fire, and it's going to burn for a hot minute until he gets his damage con back. Time to push up into this very nice Marco Polo smokescreen. It'll get me a little bit closer to the action and clear this island so I'll have more to shoot at. The enemy Republic goes down to our Yamato in the back, so now it's just down to the Friedrich de Gross and what I believe is a Montana running that white line right now at the back of the map. I'm also fairly certain he's on entirely full health. I don't know, I think the word we're looking for is no battle contribution. There's another fire on the de Gross. My obscenely long-range 20-kilometer torps, while they look like they might have hit him if he kept his course, aren't going to. Don't quite have the range for him. Little bit too slow. That's okay, it made him turn. There's my high caliber at 130,000 damage as the DeGrosse continues to burn. Now, at this point, I'm being mindful because that other battleship at the back of the map, the Montana, hasn't been spotted yet. And there he is. And his shells are flying very predictably at me. I take a half-decent chunk from the Montana. I'm protected quite a bit by my side armor. I'm scared of this Montana. He's on quite literally full health. So I leave the DeGrosse to his devices and let him continue to burn. We're sitting at 142,000 damage at this point. I'm eyeing up that Montana like a snack. That is some free damage to be had if I've ever seen it. So I'm going to lob some torpedoes in his general direction, expecting him to turn in, something to those lines. Might not hit him. With how long these torps take to go that distance, it's hard to predict someone's course because not a lot of people are going to go straight linus for that long, unless you manage to get the torps off without being detected or they don't know you're there, or you fire them right at the beginning of the game. It's hard to hit them. But what they'll do is they'll keep him on his toes, they'll keep him moving, they'll be diverting his attention to dodging torpedoes instead of shooting at me. And also, fortunately, I guess to make up for yoinking the dev strike on the Minotaur, Marco Polo is running directly at him and tanking a lot of the incoming fire that would otherwise be directed at me. There's a fire on the Montana, and that's going to burn for a hot minute, as the Friedrich de Grosse is about to die. Another set of torps in the general direction of the Montana, just in case. Grosse goes down to our gearing. It's time for me to decide how I want to deal with this Montana. I gotta get my guns around. I can't tank more than maybe a salvo or two from him. And that's if I'm getting lucky. That fire continues to burn. We're about to crest 160,000 damage. I break spot again, and I'm able to get turned around. Marco Polo is healing a little bit of his health back, but he is going to sacrifice himself for the cause. He is not long for this world. He is showing the broadside of his ship to a Montana. Cannot imagine why. But Marco Polo is now dead, and Montana is mine to shoot at. Sitting at currently 169, nice, 1,000 damage. Make that 177. Another incoming salvo from the Montana, gotta tank it. But at this angle and this trajectory, I can do something locally known as evasion tanking. It's like kiting, but you're sailing towards the enemy, and you're able to use your side armor a lot more effectively. And as you close the distance, you're less likely to eat the deck pens that would be very bad for anything but a Togo, because not everything has nice low freeboard and really thick armor. But at this point, Montana's not long for this world. I've got one more salvo to tank. Takes me to 600 HP, literally within an inch of my life. But unfortunately, I'm not going to get the kill. Oh, no, never mind. Yes, I am. I thought for sure that was going to get yoinked. So we close out the game with some campaign milestones. 189,030 damage, 109 shells, 1 torp, 2 ships killed, 7 fires, 1 flood, 2 citadels, a defender, an assisted cap, and I only spotted 1 ship. But I got the high caliber medal. That's always nice to see. 3,087 base experience to top it off. The torpedo kill on the Daring definitely contributed to that XP. Overall, I'd say it wasn't a bad showing of the brand new legendary tier cruiser, the Yoshino. So if you liked the video, go ahead and like it. Leave a comment if you have any thoughts about the ship, or if you just want to tell me I have a skill issue. Doesn't matter to me. Engagement's engagement. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.